Tonight I'm going to take you through a step-by-step alignment of the base model Celestron mount, which today is the AVX. Before that it was the AGT, also known as the CG-5. I have an AGT, that's what I'm going to use, but the instructions are the same. I'm going to do all of this through the CPWI software from Celestron, and I'm going to do everything through my camera. Sometimes people think they have to get alignment through eyepieces and then plug in their camera later. I'm going to do it all through my camera using the SharpCap software, also free software. Now at this point, if you've got an AGT mount, you might be thinking, hey Matt, I tried to plug in my AGT mount to CPWI and it said couldn't find the mount. It's not compatible. That's true. What you need to do is get rid of your old original NexStar hand controller, get a NexStar Plus hand controller. I got mine on eBay for like $50. I'm not even sure what software is on it. I just took it out of the box and it worked, so I didn't want to touch it. I will look at what software is on the hand controller and on the mount and put that in the description for you in case you're trying to replicate my situation here. So I'm going to do this in pretty challenging conditions just to show you how easy really alignment is regardless of your situation. Number one, I cannot see the North Star. Some people think you got to see the North Star to do alignment. You don't have to. Partially because I live right next to Denver. Denver's to my north. The whole sky over there is lit up. You can't see the North Star. It's not bright enough. But adding to that is I'm going to be doing this on the south side of my house. So there's going to be my house between me and the North Star. And in fact, I won't be able to see any stars in the northern hemisphere. Adding to the challenges is I've got a bright street light across the street and all the houses in the neighborhood will be lit up. That's what I'm used to. It's no big deal once you get aligned. Everything kind of comes out through the telescope, so all the bright lights are not a big deal when you're doing planetary astrophotography. I was just outside and I think I counted 4, maybe 5 stars that I could see, plus Saturn. So that's what I'm dealing with tonight, but that's all you really need. As long as the stars are far enough apart in the sky, both east-west and up and down, you can get really solid alignment, and that's what we're going to do tonight. So I've got my tripod, I've got my mount, I've got my C9.25 telescope, I've got my counterweights, and you might want to grab a compass if you don't know which way is north. You don't have to be exact, but just a general north direction. And then you will want to get a level to make sure your tripod is level. So I got everything I need here. I'm going to start loading it up, taking it outside. And as I set it up and as I get alignment, I'll take you through every step of the process. So let's do it. All right, so you want to set up your telescope with this alignment peg that's on your mount facing north, roughly. We'll be able to adjust that more finely later. That could either be, depending on how your alignment peg is affixed to the tripod, that could either be in alignment with one of these legs, and in that case you'll just face the leg north, or it might be between 2 legs, and then you'll just have your that third leg facing due south. So I know that my concrete here is pretty much north-south, so I'm just going to align these bottom 2 legs with this east-west, which means this one's going to be north. Now the next step is we're going to want to make sure that this is a level platform for the mount to be on, and the way to do this is pick 2 legs, lay your level across those 2 legs, and make sure that that's level first. And you're going to do that by adjusting leg height. My legs are actually broken here, so I just have to move them in a little bit left or right to make sure that this is level. And then once you've got these 2 of them level, just go across. So now you've got the 2 level ones for me is on the right, and the other one needs to be adjusted to make sure this is level. And it's sometimes an iterative process where you kind of adjust it this way, then you go back right angle, adjust it that way, and you just go back and forth until you get it perfect. So that's real nice. We got level on these 2 legs, and then when I swivel it around, we're nice and level on those 2 legs. So now we're ready to put the mount on. So there's these adjustment screws on the bottom, and between those adjustment screws there should be a gap. That gap is where that alignment peg is going to go. So you're just going to set that down right there so the alignment peg is right between the end of those two screws here. And then we're just going to screw in this bottom part. Just hand tighten. Don't go crazy on this, because to do an adjustment later, you're going to want maybe a little bit of play, but just nice and hand tight. There's also an accessory tray that comes with these. It's that little disc that you can put up here. I have not found a need for it. It does keep you from doing something stupid like trying to put the mount together with the legs too close together. It's also called a leg spreader, but the weight of the telescope is going to spread out the legs. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. I've been doing this for a long time without ever putting that in place, so I'm not sure you need it. If you haven't done it already, you're going to want to set your latitude on your mount to be as close to your latitude as you can. There's a little mark there that shows what you've got it set to. I think mine ends up being set to 45 right now. I think I'm closer to 40 on my latitude, but we'll see how that plays out as the alignment goes on. We'll adjust for that later if we're off. When you put your mount on, it might be sitting kind of like this. Before we do anything further, you just want to align all of the marks, release the clutches and align the marks. Okay, now the next thing is we're going to put the counterweights on. Now, if you bought your telescope and mount as part of a package, they should have given you all of the counterweights that you need. So just put all those on. And then you're not going to know the first time exactly where to put them. So let's just put them kind of in the middle for now. For mine, for the 9.25, it takes 2 counterweights, so I'm just going to kind of put them in the middle. I think the best reason there is for putting the counterweights on before you put your telescope on is you've got your counterweights and the weight of the mount all making this a very stable platform, so that when you do put your telescope on, you're not putting yourself at any risk of dropping a very expensive piece of equipment. So let's go get the telescope. All right, got my telescope, and I'm going to put it on the saddle plate here, and you're just going to make sure all of the screws are nice and loose so that you can get it in there without struggling too much. And then I just slide it down. I know roughly where I need to put this, but we're going to do a balancing procedure later to get this dialed in. You're going to want to tighten all of the screws here. You do not want your telescope sliding off this mount. Make sure it's nice and solidly in there. Okay, we got the scope on, we got the counterweights on, we're ready for the next step. That next step is going to be a balancing procedure. To do that, you're going to want to make sure that all of the equipment that's going to be on the telescope during your session is on the telescope during the balancing session here. So, make sure your camera's plugged in at this point. I'm going to go ahead and put the cables, attach the cables, because the cables apply a little bit of weight to it. All right, next up we are going to balance right ascension. So we're going to undo that clutch so that it moves this way. And for this procedure, I like to have the telescope kind of at a right angle to the ground. So usually put it like that. And balanced in right ascension, and I've kind of got it, not quite there. So right now it's balanced a little bit to the west here, and you always want it balanced to the east. So, I mean, if this was totally out of balance, let's just show you what it might be. So this is, completely out of balance. You never want to just let go of these and let it swing, because it's going to possibly damage your equipment. But this is obviously balanced too far here to the west. So I'm going to move these in. And what you always want is you want it balanced a little bit to the east. And the way to remember that, let's see if I can do this. That might be a little much. Just barely, just slightly balanced to the east. That's to the west, maybe a little bit more. That's pretty good. There, yeah, that's good. So the way to remember that is, remember all the stars are going to move from east to west across the sky. And so something's going to be pushing the telescope, a motor's going to be pushing the telescope this direction. And you always want the weight pushing against those gears. So just remember, we're always going to be pushing up from the east. So this way is always going to be just a little bit balanced in that direction. Now the thing is, when you flip the meridian and your telescope is then on this side, you're gonna have to move these weights. So it's good at this point to figure out where the weights need to be to put it a little bit more balanced on the weight side versus the telescope side.
Alright, now we're going to balance what's called declination, and so on this one I'm going to release the clutch here. I think let's first tighten the clutch on right ascension. Okay, I'm going to loosen the clutch on declination. And then here we're going to want it perfectly balanced right to left. And I kind of hit it right where it needed to be.
Now when you make changes to this, I would say mine is a little bit weighted to the back, so I'm going to want to move this whole thing forward a little bit. The safest way to do that, what I recommend, is push this thing back to the top like this and then move it. So I needed to move mine just a little bit forward. So we're going to do that. That should be enough. And then we're going to move it back over here and see. Now I'm a little bit too top heavy there, or front heavy on the scope, so I'm going to move it, kind of split the difference there, move it back to where about half as far as I moved it before. So let's get that back here. So I'm going to want to bring it back just a little bit. Okay. And let's try that. Move it back over, move it over here, and we'll see. That's really good. Yeah, that's balanced. I didn't do the clutch there, but that's nicely balanced there. Okay, and after we're done with that, we just want to get all of those alignment marks lined up again on both axes. Just undo the clutches and then move the telescope where it needs to be, and then retighten the clutches. And now we're ready to plug into the computer and start the alignment process. For the alignment process, you're going to want to have your field of view open as wide as you can. So don't do it with any Barlow lenses. You can do it with the native focal length of your telescope, but what I find the easiest way to do alignment is to put a focal reducer on. So I've got the Celestron 0.6 or 0.7, whatever it is, focal reducer, and I'm going to actually attach that to the back of my scope, between my scope and my camera. You want to make sure your telescope is somewhat focused before you begin this procedure, because you're going to be going to stars that might be kind of faint. You won't be able to see them if your telescope is completely out of focus. So ideally, before you start this procedure, during the day, focus on something with your focal reducer or your native focal length or whatever your configuration is going to be. Focus on something with your telescope that's really far away. It can even just be a few blocks away, just something to get the focus about right. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just can't be super far off. You're going to want to plug your USB cable into the bottom of your hand controller. I will put a link to this cable in the description. Okay, so at this point it's a lot of computer work. I'm going to sit down and take you on the computer. So I've got SharpCap opened. That's how I'm going to view the camera right now. Can't see anything. I'm actually not even attached to the camera. So let's reconnect the camera. Can't see anything though because my my cap is on. Okay, now we're going to launch CPWI. And assuming you've got the mount powered up and you've got the USB cable plugged into the hand controller and into your computer, when you hit connection USB, it should connect. There we go. We got it. It says Advanced GT, and we're going to do a manual alignment. Before you do that, you're going to want to set your location. You can set the time, but the time should be what your laptop says. You can see here it says it's 21:45, which is my laptop, 10:14, that is the date, and then my lat and long. So that's correct for me. If that isn't correct, then you just click on set location, and you can either choose a location here, or what I recommend is use a GPS app from your phone and put in the exact GPS of your telescope into these latitude and longitude fields up there. And you can enter it into those fields either in decimal format or hours, minutes, seconds format. It'll accept either one. You can also hit this select on Google Maps button. It'll launch Google Maps, and you can pick the spot where you are on the map. So a lot of different options. I'm already set up, so I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to go ahead and have manual alignment and say begin alignment. So this says move your mount's right ascension and declination axes to the index marks. We already did that, and click ready once complete. Okay, so we're going to say ready. All right, so now it just says select a target by clicking an object in the sky viewer and click go to. So what my plan is, as I mentioned, I think earlier, is I want to get 4 stars. I want to get 2 in the east, 2 in the west, and I want them 1 low and 1 high. So kind of dispersed throughout the sky. Like I said, I can't see north, so everything's going to be in the southern sky. When you're looking at CPWI, limit the number of stars during the alignment procedure, and you can do that by going to Sky Viewer, and just at the bottom there's a slider on how dim you want to see the stars. If you go all the way to Mag 14, you see all kinds of stars. Like I said before, I can barely see any stars, so I'm going to go Mag 4, limit the number of stars I can see. This is going to help in picking my alignment points. Before you go into the alignment procedure, you're going to want to go to telescope and say configure mount. Just verify you're on tracking rate sidereal. If you're on solar or lunar, just go ahead and change it to sidereal. Tracking mode, you're going to want to say RA plus declination, and everything else is good. So the first star, you're going to be off quite a bit because you didn't get lucky on getting your altitude and azimuth perfect. So you're going to want to find something super bright. And in my case, that's going to be Saturn. It's pretty high right now. So let's find Saturn. Note that the tool here, CPWI, gives you suggested stars. If you can see all those suggestions, then go for it, but I very infrequently can get enough stars that way. So let's go over to Saturn. And you can see Saturn is actually a suggestion for me. I'm going to click on it and say go to Saturn. Okay, a couple things to note at this point before we get started. Number one, since I started in the eastern sky, now I've got my telescope on the west side. I need to have my weights a little bit heavier on the east side. Remember, I had originally adjusted it so it was heavy on the telescope side. So I'm going to move one of my weights just out a couple inches to put a little bit more weight on that side. The other thing is hopefully before you got to this point, you've had your telescope out, you've been messing around with it, and you've aligned your red dot finder or your spotting scope, or in my case, I've got this Telrad. You've aligned it so that it is pointing where your telescope's pointing, because that's very important here to try to get your target into the view on your computer. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is take the cover off of the telescope and turn my Telrad on. And so I'm going to go over to my camera. And so the first thing to know is if you're getting really bright stars as your targets, things like this, you can see this little star over here, don't get distracted by those and accidentally align to something really dim. The objects that you're going to see through your telescope are going to be super bright. And the way to ensure that is on the exposure, I usually put something around 60 milliseconds on the exposure and somewhere in the 300 to 400 range on the gain. That's going to make everything really bright, and the alignment stars are just going to explode with brightness. So we'll see that here in a second if I get my first alignment point in, which is Saturn, which conveniently I can do from here. And you're just going to use these mount slew controls. And you can do that with the arrow keys on your computer, assuming that the mount slew controls window is active. And I can move my telescope around. It takes them a while to figure out exactly which way, right, left, up, down, moves the telescope which way. The other thing is by default, this is moving really slowly. This slew rate of 6 is too slow. So I'm going to move up to, we'll start with 7 here. And I'm pretty far off, like I said. I'm going to be far off to start. Okay, now I'm getting close to Saturn. And there it is. Okay. Pretty cool. You can see some of the moons there. Okay, and I've got both of my camera axes flipped, so let me flip those back around so Saturn looks the way it's supposed to. And what you're going to want to do is put your crosshairs on. You can either do the double crosshairs or any one of these that shows the center point. And for this alignment, you're going to want to put your object right in the middle. And you can see my camera's a little bit slanted here. It doesn't really matter. For this fine tuning, we're going to want to turn that rate down to like a 4 is what I find to be good for my setup. And you're going to want to let your subject kind of settle there. And so I'm a real stickler for getting stuff right in the middle. So even though Saturn is within the crosshairs, it's kind of off to the left a little bit. I'm trying to debate if I want to get it closer to the middle or not. I might try to get it closer here. Let's go down a little bit. I'm having a tough time getting that perfectly. I'm going to say that's good enough. So we're going to go over back to CPWI, and you can see how far off it is right now. So we're going to say that's centered. And then I'm going to find another place in the east here, another spot in the east that I can align to. It looks like there's something directly east. I can't really make it out that well. It's too bright out, but I can just barely see it through the telescope. We should be able to see it pretty nicely. Straight east, what would it be? It's probably this guy, Hamal. So I'm going to have it go to Hamal next. Okay, and you can see it's not in the viewfinder because we're not completely aligned. We got one alignment point. We need to get a little bit farther before it just slews directly to your target. So let me see if I can even see that Hamal. Boy, I can just barely see it up there. This one's going to be challenging and an opportunity maybe for me to show you another technique here that you can use. So I'm not going to be able to see Hamal with my eye. I can roughly see it, but as soon as I look through my viewfinder, I can't see it anymore. So I'm going to use a grid search technique. Again, you can see a little star down there, but remember, that's not what we're looking for. That is a star that is completely invisible to the naked eye. We're looking for a super bright star. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this guy via a grid search. So I'll get the camera view off to one side. I'll get where the telescope thinks Hamal is on the left side, and then we'll put the slew controls above it. Let's get the camera there. And here I'm just going to, I'll turn the rate up a little bit so I can do this quickly. And I'm just going to grid search this. So you can see the green is where the telescope is actually pointed, or where it thinks it's pointed. The yellow is where it thinks Hamal should be. And I'm just going to go back and forth and try to find this. This is where it's hard. I don't think that's it. I think we're looking for a brighter star. This is one of those false ones that if you accidentally align to that, you're going to mess it up. So let's keep looking. That's that same one. You can see some other ones fly through there that aren't what we're looking for. There's another one that's a false one. Not bright enough for what we're looking for. There's another one that's not bright enough. There it is. There, that's what we're looking for. Super bright star. And I'll tell you what, that's almost perfectly aligned. Maybe I'll try to fine tune it just a little bit. You know what, that's as good as I'm gonna get it. So let's call that aligned. So we'll go to CPWI and say that is centered. By the way, sometimes like I clicked on it and it didn't snap the green circle over the yellow circle. I think that's okay. Okay, let's go to the west and find some bright stars. Altair is pretty bright, so let's see if we can go to that one. Okay, now you've got your telescope on the east side, so you're going to want to make your mount telescope heavy. So move your weights in a couple inches if you had moved them out a couple inches the other way. Okay, so the scope thinks it's pointed at Altair. I'm obviously not because I can't see it. Again, this is we see a bunch of stars, or a few stars, but none of them are the brightness we're looking for. I'm going to go see if I can find it through my Telrad. Okay, I found Altair, so let me get that thing centered. Okay, that's close enough. So we're gonna go back to CPWI, say I found Altair, and you can see it's getting closer and closer. So we'll say that's centered. And then we're gonna want another one in the east that's farther away, or that's a little bit lower or a little bit higher. Boy, I'm not really seeing anything. We're just gonna let CPWI choose it. I don't think I can see this guy. That's a super bright star, but I think I'm too close to my house to see it. Let me see. Yeah, let me see. I mean, Vega is one of the brightest stars. I think I might just be able to see Vega. Let's try. Go Vega. Okay, let's see. Sometimes by the time you get 3 stars aligned, that 4th one just kind of pops right up, but it didn't in this case. So let me see what's going on. And there it is. Let's get that guy in the middle. All right, that's good. So let's say we found Vega. All right, and we are finished now. We've got 4 stars, 2 in the east, 2 in the west, and we're gonna say finished. Now, at this point, it's gonna say, would you like to perform an all-star polar alignment? Yes, you do. This is what's going to align your azimuth and your latitude to reality. You gave it estimates at the beginning. You kind of said, hey, this is north. You said, hey, I live at about 40 degrees north, or whatever you put in your latitude, but it's not very accurate. So this is how you're going to get it perfect. Now, having said that, you don't have to do this, especially if you're doing planetary astrophotography. If I'm just going to go take a quick picture of Saturn at this point, I've probably already overkilled the alignment. I could just go to Saturn and be done with it. But if you're going to be doing a long-term, multi-hour session where you want things to stay where the telescope thinks they are, you're going to have to do this all-star polar alignment. So let's do it. So let's say perform all-star polar alignment. And it says I have an error west. I'm 2 degrees off on my azimuth, and on my latitude I'm off by 13 minutes. So just a little bit off on the latitude. So to correct that, they're going to help us. They're going to say choose a bright object in the sky, and I'm already pointed to the west, and Altair I think was really bright. So I'm going to use that one. It's this guy. Go to Altair. So I'm going to say go there. And we're going to need to center it. And you can see the alignment's pretty good. It's almost centered, or at least it's in our field of view, which is nice. Sometimes it's not in the field of view at this point, and you need to go through that procedure, looking through your viewfinder, and using the slew controls here to try to get it back in the field of view. So we're going to want to move this into our center, or into the center. So let's do that. This is step 1 of kind of a 2-step process. Okay, that is nicely centered. I'm going to tell it is centered now. It is centered. And now your scope is going to move. The mount is moved, and it's saying that the mount is now adjusting its position to account for the error. And now what we're going to do, it says adjust the polar alignment knobs until the star is centered within the telescope. So this initially confused me because I was looking for like two knobs. And I'm like, which two knobs are we talking about? These are the 4 knobs that adjust the azimuth and the latitude. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to correct the error in how the mount has been put down. And mine's pretty close, I can tell, because I've set it in this place so many times that I've got it kind of dialed in. But every time is a little bit different, so I have to go through this alignment every time I put my telescope down. And you can see it's not in the field of view. So this is where I'm going to set my laptop down so I can see it while I am messing with these screws on the telescope. Okay, I moved you in a little bit closer so you can see the first adjustment we're going to make, and that is to the what's called the azimuth direction. And so the way this works is one screw is going to tighten up against that alignment peg, and the only way that you're going to be able to move it is to loosen the other one to give the alignment peg someplace to move to, and thus rotate this whole mount. So I'm going to start with this direction, and I'm going to use my viewfinder to move the kind of the left-right aspect of this until it is right, in my case, right above the star. This is also where you could run into something where I am right now here, where I'm trying to turn this to get it to move, but it won't. And it's not because this is too tight. This is really loose over here. And the problem is the mount is really cinched down into the tripod. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go underneath here and just loosen this like an 1/8 of a turn, so that the mount's still steady, but it's just a little bit loose, so that it gives it enough so that now I can turn this again. And so now I'm turning it, trying to get it right above this star. Again, I'm going to have to loosen a little bit more because as I twist that up here, it's tightening the whole mount. There. Okay, that just swiveled it. Swiveled it too much, that's fine. Okay, that's right in my viewfinder. As far as left and right is concerned, I think I'm still a little bit above it, but I'm going to go ahead and just lightly tighten those down. And now I need to adjust the latitude adjustment, and so we're going to do that with the screw that's in the front and the back. Okay, if you've got an AVX mount, it looks a little bit different. These are easier to adjust, I think, with the AVX. I've got these metal things, but it does the same thing, and it works the same as the screws we just did. One is going to tighten against it, and so you're going to have to loosen the other one. And in my case, I need to move it down just a hair. So I'm going to move these so they go down, and you might not immediately know which way to turn it, and that's fine. You can just kind of adjust it and look through your viewfinder at the same time, and you'll figure it out. Interestingly, I think I went all the way, oh, there it is. There it is, okay. So there's my up and down. I'm gonna just tighten that down a little bit, so that's fixed, and now I'm gonna go back to my azimuth screws and just adjust that. Oh, okay, so my camera's kind of at an angle, so my azimuth screws kind of go diagonally left and right. So we'll put it down there, and then we'll get this thing. Then we'll go to the latitude and move that. And you just go back and forth on these screws until you get that thing centered. be honest with you, that's probably good enough, but we'll get it as close to the middle as we can. I mean, that is almost right on. Okay, it's drifted a little bit since I got reconfigured here and sat back down, but this is really good enough. So I'm going to go back over to CPWI and say that everything's complete. And then it's going to say, for more accurate future alignment results, please perform a new alignment. And what they're telling you now is we just did that 4-star alignment with the telescope just slightly out of configuration in altitude and azimuth. And it's saying if you do another alignment now, start over with the hardware in the right spot, which is what we just did, with the hardware adjusted correctly, if you redo the alignment, you will get a better, tighter alignment. I've done that before. It is amazing. It is spot on. You can track something for, an hour. At one point I had it tracking Jupiter for, I think, 3-4 hours. It stayed in the field of view. So if you want to do that, you can do that. That's, another 20-minute procedure. 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to leave it at this, say I'm good to go on my alignment, and I'll say exit here. Now here's the true test. I'm going to take a couple pictures of Saturn because I don't want to go through this whole alignment process and not get some kind of reward out of it, even though I think the seeing is supposed to be kind of bad tonight, but we'll test it out. So I'm going to go over to Saturn, and the question is, will Saturn just pop right into view, or will I have to do some more adjustments? Because again, I didn't realign, so things are a little bit off. But let's hit go to on Saturn and see what happens. So we'll get it back into view. Oh, it's super close. It is right outside of the view somewhere here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back to CPWI. You're going to want those slew controls anyway, so let's get those back up. And we'll put the slew rate at like 6, something fast, so we can get there fast. There it is. Okay. Yeah, it didn't take too much adjustment. At this point, while I remember, I'm going to turn my tail rad off. If you've been doing this long enough, you've run down a few batteries in your tail rad or your red dot finder. So that is the alignment procedure, and as you can see, I did a pretty good job of it tonight because Saturn here has been in my field of view right smack dab in the middle while I did the capture. I did the post-processing. I went and did a couple other things. So I don't know, it's been 15 minutes and Saturn is rock solid in the middle of my viewfinder. So this is a pretty good alignment, and we could just do this all night. It'd be a blast, but the seeing isn't worth it, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a night here. It's a little bit painful spending that time to go through the alignment procedure, and then you find out that the object that you're looking at is not the best, but hey, that's part of astrophotography. So hopefully you learned something. If you did, go ahead and throw a like down. Subscribe if you want more instructional videos, and also I do a lot of experiential stuff, going out in the field and kind of follow me as I find something interesting to look at. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully it was helpful, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so let's take that focal reducer off. Okay, you can still see it's roughly in the center, and it's tremendously out of focus, so let's change that focus.